Lee Nordling. Any additional words you'd like to share? On a final note, now is probably the best time to note how much of an impact Bruce Timm had on the Mo 2 mini comics. I first met Bruce at the San Diego Comic Con, back when it was still called the San Diego Comic Con, not Comic Con International. It was still being held at the convention center, and Tim Luth, colorist for Gru, me and a bunch of other people told me that he wanted to introduce me to an artist. We went outside. Bruce, 21 years old, sat on the concrete depressed. He'd shown the portfolio to Marvel and DC, and the editors told them that his work was too cartoony and dismissed it and him out of hand. I checked out his portfolio and was really impressed. His work reminded me of Will Eisner's. He felt it favored Jack Kirby, and I think we were both right. I mentioned that he really didn't need the little bit of crosshatch that he used, that it obscured his nice line work. But that is, as I recall, the only critical observation I ever made on him. I told him I'd give him a book. His first work was terrific. Everything that followed was terrific. And he and Jim Mitchell were always first in my line for more work. I have a real fondness for the artists. I have a real fondness for most of the artists who worked on the books. But I think Larry Houston, Jim Mitchell, and Bruce Timm set the standard for everyone else to follow. And this is from this is an interview with Lee Nordling. This is a big damn book, isn't it? He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, the mini comic collection. And I thought it was very interesting. Lee Nordling, of all people, this, legendary storyteller here, right? Just like Taylor was good for the designing the action figures. Now we go to here. And what are we looking at? Bruce Timm reveals why the Penguin is female in Batman Cape Crusader. There's a lack of good villains. So when I saw this, I wanted to make sure that we were not taking things out of context. It's easy to take whether it was Donald Trump on the right side, whether it's Bruce Timm on the left side, people saying things out of context. We need to make sure that we are always getting the right context. So having said that, this is what Timm has been reported to saying. James and I were talking about, so this is James Tucker, the show's creators for the new Cape Crusader for Amazon Prime. Bruce Timm and James Tucker recently discussed the show's development with the Emmys. One of the standout topics was the decision to gender swap the Penguin. The creators explained that this choice was largely driven by the need for more compelling female villains. Timm says, James and I were talking about the overview of the show, and we said one of the problems with Batman as he is, there's a lack of good villains. You've got Catwoman, you've got Poison Ivy, you got Harley Quinn. You also got Talia, right? So he said there are not enough good villains. You need more. You need to do something more. The Penguin did not need to be female. The Force is not female. These mini comics here, and by the way, you'll notice that if you bought this book, guess which person does not give an interview? That's right. Bruce Timm does not care. This was his stepping stone to go to Marvel and DC. And once he got to DC, it's like, nope, I don't need you no more. See ya. And so he took off. So when we get to this one in particular, it will trigger something. It will trigger a response. I'm going to put a comment. I'm going to pin a comment to show you where my last video was about the future of DC animated movies. Now, what you look at DVD and Blu-ray sales, you saw a decline of people buying up those DVDs. When you go from the 2000s, right, Batman Gotham Knights, Superman Doomsday, Justice League New Frontier, Green Lantern, The First Flight, I believe it is, the Flashpoint movie, right, the Justice League Aquaman movie. There were all kinds of movies, Flashpoint Paradox, Batman Assault on Arkham. Then you get to the New 52 style, right? You get to the Superman, what is it? The New 52, like Justice League War, right? Justice League Dark Apocalypse War, and then there was the Tomorrowverse. And the Tomorrowverse, once the Flash ran backwards or ran and spun the Earth backwards or whatever he did to reverse things, you got to the Tomorrowverse, which led to a 3-part Justice League Crisis on Infinite Earths that had just wrapped up, I think in July when the Comic-Con happened, right? So everything wrapped up. So now here we are with a Batman show, not on Max and not on VOD, but on Amazon Prime, with a guy in charge who basically flushed Coyote versus Acme and the Batgirl movie down the fucking toilet. Okay. When I was thinking about Amaya Miller's movie, her new movie coming out, I was worried they were going to tax write it off, and I was going to be pissed. I'm like, what good is a project if nobody else gets to see it? There's a lack of good villains. No, I mean you got Poison Ivy, you got Catwoman, you got Harley, you got Talia, right? You got Talia. Who else? Who else? I mean, Denny O'Neil wrote a good villain in Talia, great villain in Talia. There was Enchantress, was there not? Or not even Enchantress. I thought of I can't remember what her name was. Nocturnal, some sort of vampire character, right? And I think she's in this movie, in these series. Penguin does not need to be a woman. Penguin could be, mixed race. Penguin could be Filipino. Penguin could be something else. But Penguin could be like 20 years old, and Batman could be in his 30s or 40s. Okay, you could have a teenager Penguin, or Penguin could even look like the one by Robin Lord Taylor. He could just look like a skinny guy with a weird face. Okay, there are a number of ways you could have done this, but I feel like this is a woke. The problem with Bruce Timm is not that he's woke; he's trying to stay relevant in Hollywood. So I'm going to post. I think I'm posting down in the comments section the video where I said that the animated movies were failing, and this is where it's all going to go falling apart. And I said this, I think, a year or two ago. I think I said this about War World. No, I said it maybe a year ago because of War World, and that the Tomorrowverse was garbage, and that Crisis on Infinite Earth was garbage. They said, a lot of viewers said that the first one was good, the second one was kind of shitty, and the third one was somewhere between shitty and good. So if you said that the first one was like an A and the second one was a C, then Crisis on Infinite Earths Part 3 was like a B minus. So Bruce Timm has lost his way. The days of like Batman the Animated Series, when we were all there. This is one of two cartoons my father watched. I mean, there were three, basically. My dad would watch the Pink Panther from the 1960s. He would watch old Looney Tunes that were, like, shown in the movies, right? But then they're shown on television, right? We're talking about Mel Blanc, Bugs Bunny cartoons, not things that are made now. And Batman the Animated Series. That was the one he would watch. And it was like watching a movie with the Art Deco 1940s gangsters and style buildings. And as I kind of look back at those, I kind of realized a lot of those were Denny O'Neil kind of style 70s stories rewritten, like especially with Crime Alley, rewritten for the 90s, because Denny O'Neil contributed a lot to those stories, and those stories got rewritten a bit. You had The Laughing Fish, that was like, was it Stephen Rogers, Englehart, 1978 story. So this feels like a second coming of... And by the way, I liked Bruce Timm's Green Lantern animated series. I have those on my shelf. These we'll get up a little bit. We'll talk about the DC universe, but I have those on my shelf. I don't have the animated series on my shelf, but I really have nothing bad to say about the animated series. I'm trying to think of an episode I didn't like. I like the robot ones, the ones that whatever Paul Dini wrote. I'm trying to think of one bad animated series episode. I mean, maybe, but even the Sewer King one with the children, that was all right. So here we have, up here, those are the Green Lantern animated series, right? These are all my animated stuff. It's just, there's Gotham, right? It's not the same. It really isn't, because there's the Mad Hatter. It's not the same because you captured that magic when you did the animated series, okay? So Bruce Timm left Mattel and Masters of the Universe in the 80s. And then somewhere in there, he did a couple of things. And then he eventually did the animated series of Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill as the Joker. And from there, it was the animated universe and all kinds of other things. And he had been in charge of all the animated movies and projects from the 90s to the 2000s to the 2010s. And here we are with whatever this is. Now, I've heard, because I don't like to be on woke watch. That's why I will defend Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs live action until I see it. I really haven't seen a Disney movie, to be honest, unless we count the 20th century movies, like The Way of Water or The Creator. And I might see Alien Romulus this week. I might. Um, I don't like to be on woke watch. And I also don't like to embrace every movie that bashes men or tries to be. I think this is Bruce Timm's poor attempt to try to be woke or appeal to the woke or appeal to what he thinks is the anti-Trump crowd. And by the way, I didn't say this, I should have mentioned it. I met Bruce Timm at the Los Angeles Comic Book Convention Center near USC back in 2003 when they were promoting Batman Mystery of the Batwoman. Very uptight, white and uptight as white people can be. Whether they're Irish white, Polish white, Scottish white, French white, British white, New Zealand white, whatever white. White, uptight, probably would crack dirty adult jokes that are inappropriate in the workplace. But as soon as I walk in the room, the terrorist-looking guy, I'm moral and I'm white and moral. I'm serious. Like, don't try to pull a fast one. You're full of shit. Anybody who's ever seen Bruce Timm in real life outside of the cameras will know what kind of person he really is. I don't know what kind of person he really is, but I bet you it's not as uptight as he seems to be. So that's all I got to say about this. The animated universe has fallen apart. James Gunn has taken over. He's got his creature commandos for the his new universe. I don't give a shit. This is another depressing. Things have rotted out. Let's hang on to our old stuff that we have here, and let's just let the past die, or let the past stay in the past, as Picard would say. And now I got one more topic before I cook dinner.